The desert sun hung low over the horizon, casting long, sharp shadows across the dry plains of Arizona. Dust swirled lazily in the wind, and a faint smell of mesquite fire carried on the air. The frontier was a place where a man's reputation was worth more than his gold, and where every action, good or bad, echoed louder than gunfire. Ethan Calloway was not the kind of cowboy who chased trouble, but trouble seemed to find him just the same. A tall man with weathered skin and eyes the color of storm clouds, he had spent most of his 30-odd years drifting from one ranch to the next, breaking horses, hauling freight, and mending fences. He was a wanderer, never staying long enough in one place to put down roots. Yet, beneath his rough exterior, Ethan carried something most men out here had lost, an unyielding sense of fairness. He had seen too many lives crushed under the boot of greed, racism, and power. To him, decency wasn't a luxury. It was survival. It was on a blistering afternoon when Ethan's path crossed with hers. He had ridden into the small trading post near the edge of Apache territory to barter for supplies, coffee beans, flour, and a new length of rope. The post was crowded, as it often was, with ranch hands, prospectors, and the occasional drifter. But that day, all eyes had fixed on a young Apache woman who had stepped inside, her shoulders squared though her clothes were worn and torn from travel. Her name was Naya. She moved with quiet dignity, though whispers chased her every step. The townsfolk didn't hide their scorn. Ethan had seen it before, white settlers quick to sneer at anyone who didn't look like them. She approached the counter, holding out a small bundle of handmade beadwork, offering it in trade for flour and salt. The storekeeper, a heavy man with sweat staining his shirt, scoffed and shoved the bundle back at her. "We don't take trinkets," he barked. "Not from your kind." The room erupted in low laughter. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tightening. He had seen cruelty, but what happened next twisted his gut in ways he couldn't ignore. A ranch hand, half-drunk, with sunburned skin and a cruel grin, stepped forward, blocking Naya's path. "Maybe you ain't got money, squaw," he sneered, "but maybe you got something else to trade." He reached out and tugged at the front of her shirt, ripping the thin fabric. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by more ugly laughter. Naya froze, her hands instinctively clutching at the torn cloth, her eyes burning with a mix of shame and fury. And that was when Ethan moved. Nobody saw his fist coming, not even the ranch hand. The blow cracked against the man's jaw, sending him sprawling to the floor. Silence fell heavy across the trading post. Ethan stood tall, his voice steady and sharp as a whip. "Touch her again," he warned, "and you'll answer to me." The crowd shifted uneasily. Some muttered about a fool cowboy sticking his neck where it didn't belong. Others just watched, waiting to see how far Ethan would push it. Ethan bent down, picked up the beadwork that had been cast aside, and set it firmly on the counter. "You'll take it," he told the storekeeper, his tone leaving no room for argument. "And you'll give her what she asked for. Fair trade." The storekeeper hesitated, his mouth opening to protest, but one look at Ethan's storm-gray eyes silenced him. Begrudgingly, he slid the sack of flour and the pouch of salt across the counter. Naya gathered the goods quietly, her face expressionless, though her trembling hands betrayed her. She did not speak, but she gave Ethan a long, searching look, one he couldn't quite read. Gratitude, suspicion, perhaps both. Then, without a word, she turned and left the post, disappearing into the glare of the desert sun. The moment she was gone, the whispers started. "He's a fool," someone muttered. "You don't stand between an Apache and her people. They'll come for him." Ethan ignored them. He wasn't the kind of man who thought about consequences when it came to doing what was right. But later that night, as he sat by his small campfire outside town, those words came back to him. He wondered about the look in Naya's eyes. The desert was quiet, save for the crackle of flames and the distant call of a coyote. Ethan leaned back against his saddle, his hat tilted low, when he noticed movement on the horizon. At first, he thought it was just shadows cast by the firelight, but then the ground began to tremble. The next morning, word spread like wildfire across the town. A group of Apache riders, 200 strong, were spotted descending the ridge, their painted faces grim, their spears and rifles glinting in the sun. They weren't coming to trade. They were coming for him. And as Ethan saddled his horse, every eye in town turned toward him. Some looked at him with pity, others with fear. But nobody offered to stand beside him. He had defended a woman's dignity the day before. Now, it seemed, he might have to pay with his life. Ethan's horse snorted, stamping impatiently in the loose dirt, its hooves kicking up small clouds of dust. He tightened the cinch on his saddle, his fingers working mechanically, though his mind raced faster than his pulse. 200 warriors, every one of them trained, armed, and painted for battle, were riding straight toward him. He had faced many dangers in his life, stampeding cattle, angry rustlers, desert storms, even gunfights in the dead of night. But nothing had prepared him for this. From the ridge, the warriors appeared as a wave of shadows, the sun glinting off the tips of their spears and the metal of their rifles. They were silent at first, their horses moving as one, a terrifying rhythm that seemed to shake the very earth. Ethan could see the fear and determination in their eyes. They were not men who had come to negotiate. He dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible, his boots crunching on the hard, sun-baked soil. For a long moment, the desert held its breath, as if the wind itself were waiting for the first move. A rider broke away from the formation, moving toward him with a grace that belied the menace of his presence. His face was painted in intricate red and black designs, his eyes sharp, assessing. This was clearly their leader. Ethan Calloway, the man said in careful English, his voice low but firm. You have done what no white man dares. You touched what is sacred and yet acted in kindness. Ethan blinked, confused. I didn't mean to. The leader raised a hand, silencing him. You did not harm her in spirit, only in circumstance. You defended her when others would have humiliated her. You risked yourself. That is unusual. Ethan's mind struggled to catch up. All he could think about was the torn shirt, the scorn in the store, the laughter that had made him sick. So, you're not here to. No, the leader interrupted gently. We are here to see if you are worthy of understanding. Behind him, the 200 warriors fanned out, lowering their weapons slightly, though their eyes never left Ethan. The tension remained, electric and alive, as he tried to grasp the meaning of this gathering. From the distance, a soft voice called out. It was Naya. She stepped forward, her torn shirt now mended with strips of cloth from her pack. She walked with deliberate grace, her eyes fixed on Ethan, not with fear, but with trust. You stood for me, she said softly, her voice carrying across the clearing. When others would have shamed me, you protected me. For that, your life is safe. If your heart is true. Ethan felt the weight of her words settle over him like a cloak. He had acted instinctively, as any decent man would, yet he had never considered the consequences of cultural boundaries or misunderstandings. In that moment, he realized that courage was not simply about fighting, it was about standing for what was right, even when the world might come down on you. The leader nodded at Ethan, then gestured to the warriors behind him. One by one, they approached, not with hostility, but with respect. They offered small tokens, a carved eagle feather, a pouch of dried herbs, a blanket woven with intricate patterns. Each gift was a silent acknowledgement of Ethan's bravery and integrity. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes, though he did not immediately move. He had spent years wandering the frontier, a man apart from the communities he passed through. He had fought to survive, yes, but he had never been truly seen for the values he held. These warriors, strangers to him just hours before, recognized the measure of his soul in a way few ever had. Then Naya stepped closer, her hands extended. She placed her own small token in his palm, a string of beads, intricately woven, symbolizing protection and gratitude. You acted without thought for yourself, she said, her voice steady. That is why we are here, not to punish, but to honor. Ethan looked around at the sea of faces, once threatening, now open and curious. It was overwhelming. I don't know what to say, he admitted, his voice thick. I just did what I thought was right. That is enough, the leader said simply. That is everything. For a long moment, silence hung in the air. Then, one of the warriors raised his voice in a low chant, soon echoed by others. It was a song of respect, of acknowledgement, a recognition of honor that transcended language. Ethan felt it vibrate deep in his chest, a warmth spreading through him he had never known. As the song ended, Naya spoke again. You have shown that humanity is not divided by color, by tribe, or by law. You have shown that courage is in action, not in violence. That is why we come, not for vengeance, but for recognition. Ethan's gaze softened. He realized then that the torn shirt, the small confrontation in the trading post, had become a catalyst for something far greater than he could have imagined. It was a lesson in humility, compassion, and connection. The leader stepped forward once more, speaking directly to him. Ethan Calloway, you are welcome in our lands. You are welcome in our hearts. Let this day mark the beginning of understanding between our peoples. And with that, the warriors slowly dispersed, fading into the desert landscape as quietly as they had appeared, leaving Ethan and Naya alone in the fading sunlight. The weight of the moment hung between them, profound and transformative. Naya finally spoke a single word, friend. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the depth of its meaning. For the first time in his wandering life, he felt truly seen, truly connected, not by fear or obligation, but by mutual respect and shared humanity. The desert sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. And for Ethan Calloway, the cowboy who had acted without hesitation, it was the beginning of a story that would forever remind him, and all who heard it, that courage and compassion could bridge worlds, heal wounds, and change hearts.